And now, after 5 years, we have a proof that that was military operation, and we can say also they were lying to us all the time. But let's go through this. You can prove chronologically what was happened, what decisions were made, and how things were going from 2020.
Right, exactly. So our dossier contains information for several countries, for the US, Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, and Italy, and Australia. And so in those countries, we had enough information to compile. And the dossier is just a listing of facts and dates and key agencies and key people of what happened all over the world. We tried to remove our own interpretation as much as possible so that there's just a listing and an executive summary from which any journalist, and we send it to numerous journalists, so that any journalist can take it and start their own investigation. And since we've published it about a month ago, we've also received a lot of feedback and a lot of comments from people from all over the world who submitted similar information for their countries. And so if any listeners in Croatia have information that fits this dossier, please send it to me, and we will update our dossier accordingly. But right now, as I said, we have initial set for these first countries we looked at, and now we're compiling with additional comments that we received from all the regions in the world, from Latin America, from Asia. Many Asian countries have the same structure. So it's very, very obvious now that this was a coordinated attack on the people by their own governments, hiding it behind false advertisement as a public health event, but it wasn't a public health event.
Yeah, well, can you show us, you have this document that we go through, and can you please show to our audience just to see where they can find, to read by themselves, because I always bring a story and anybody who wants to believe can believe it, who doesn't want to believe can read it and prove by himself what is the truth.
Right. So this is my on my Substack. You can find, and you can add the link to this video. So my Substack is called Due Diligence and Art, and I published this COVID dossier with my collaborator Debbie Lerman. And as you can see, we've profiled countries: U.S., U.K., Canada, Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, and Italy. And it has a fairly short executive summary, and we've recorded a video of us discussing it. And so the executive summary has to do with two events: is declaration of the PrEP Act declaration, emergency declaration. This is how it started. So two declarations, EUA and PrEP Act, made by the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, were registered on February 4th, 2020. And that was the declaration of as if we were in a war which was started with chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons. While that was also contrived, in my opinion, there was no such war. They just declared that way to invoke all these laws inappropriately. And then this is I also linked the tape that I received from a whistleblower from AstraZeneca, where Pascal Soro and Mark Esser are discussing that they received a phone call from this person, Colonel Matt Hepburn from DARPA, telling them that on February 4th, COVID virus was declared a national security threat. And again, this was done in secrecy and public was not told. And public is still not been this is all going on. So this is, and so to us, this is the conclusion, is that COVID was rooted in national security machinations for a variety of reasons, as we discussed, for money and for power and for population control, but had nothing to do with public health. And then later on, so this is the end of the executive summary, and we have call to action to journalists to investigate this further. And here the dossier itself is a very simple format. It's a listing. As you can see, for each country, we have US, and we're listing military intelligence agencies in charge of pandemic response. We list them here, the ones that we know of. We'll list the key dates, also we know of. And the emergency declarations, and then military and intelligence agencies involved in public communications and propaganda. And you will see that in all countries, it's very consistent. It's the intelligence and military, Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, which has done a whole bunch of censorship, and also the cyber threat, also all the censorship and propaganda agencies. And for example, so everyone preferred blame target in the U.S. is Anthony Fauci, but in fact, Deborah Birx and Robert Redfield were much higher on the food chain and much more in charge of things. So Deborah Birx was presented to the public as a health expert, but she's not. She's from the Department of State. She's intelligence apparatus, so deep state. And so here we have a profile for Deborah Birx and for a whole bunch of other people. So Michael Callahan, for example, is a CIA agent, a known CIA agent, and he was in charge of being in Wuhan and calling from there when they've so-called identified the COVID virus sequence. And then the same listing goes on for different countries, for the UK, for Australia, for Canada, Netherlands, Germany, and Italy. Italy, interestingly, also there was a general in charge. Everywhere in these governance infrastructures, yes, you were correct. There were usually generals put in charge. Here we found the General Bonfiglio was identified belonging to the NATO UEO point of the DPC. I'm not sure what that means, but so General Bonfiglio was in charge of the communications and all this organization in Italy and reporting to NATO. So it was coordinated through NATO. And so we encourage people to read this document and to look through the references and identify if you have information in your country, identify similar pieces of information for your country. Which agencies were in charge, how this communication happened, key dates and so forth. And let's collaborate on this.
Yeah.